my friends, I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table, and this is the first Sunday of 2024, so this would be a brand new freaking year. And as the collection of stuff I got kind of tossed all over out here shows, it's been kind of a, I don't know, cluttered, kind of muddled start to the year as far as I'm concerned. You know, a little cat brush there, hairbrush going on there and stuff. So I thought, I'm going to do just a tickle, bitch, and run session, right? So I help mediate it in some of my other videos and stuff. I'm planning on doing a couple, 3, 4, 6 videos today between this channel and my other channel. Got little Missy sitting over here in the cat carrier. She's being very, very behaved. She's gotten used to be able to go in there when I do videos. Otherwise, she'd literally be right here in my lap, as I've said. She's spending more time out in the rest of the house with the rest of the kitties. We have to be vigilant when she's out because Sissy wants to dominate everybody, and she's new, and I don't want to fight. We're trying to make sure we don't have fights. I mean, it's kind of one of those trying to herd cat kind of scenarios. What is what it is. Anyway, a little update on my Interstellar Frontiers, or my game not traveled. So I've got some really positive comments in the last few weeks from some of you guys, and it's awesome stuff. I'm grateful for that. I'm getting more clicks on the videos themselves, which is impressed considering how I understand. It's just, oh my God, what the hell is he blathering about? I am in the process. I got a fellow who occasionally is dropping some AI work for the potential use of the channel, and I'm grateful for that stuff. He's asked me for if I had ideas on things I'd like to see, and sometimes it's hard to come up with ideas based off of stuff I did a decade ago. And the other half of it is that once I have an idea, and I came onto one the other day, I don't know how practical it is because the latest version I'm attempting to create, and I'm only about 57 pages into it, which it's taken me a year and a half to get to the 57 pages part. In part is from the perspective of a young house lord, or in this case a young house lady who's initially starting out like you would as a player, and being coached through the various sections. The daunting parts of this is there are so many charts and subcharts that are a real challenge to recreate from scratch. It can take weeks because I don't have time to devote 6, 7 hours a day like I did 20 years ago when I first started working on this. So, for example, I have been painfully grinding my way through the economic section of running your exchange and all this other stuff, and they're very important to the game mechanics. But they're not, unless you're an accountant, nobody really loves this stuff. I mean, you really have to have a thing for it. It's kind of one of those, you just do it so you can benefit from the outcome of it. So that said, creating these images, like this example active exchange, was a real challenge. I mean, I really don't want to go into just how much of a challenge it was to create this book and the various versions of it back in the day, and to recreate some of this. I just don't know. So my quick fix is to take the scans of these things and then crop and cut them and shrink, to get them to fit into the new version. And so here's where I'm at right now. So I'm stopped. I can't really type any more information into the pages because all these pages are linked. So you have one continuous PDF of this, but they're all linked digitally speaking, page 1, 2, 3 in order for a reason. So they have a tendency to flow up and down. They'll move if you're not careful, and that can be, from an editorial perspective or a table or a layout perspective, a real pain, because then you have to go back from page 1 and literally go through every single page section by section to make sure nothing has offset itself to screw up what it would look like when you print it. You know, we have there's a visual expectation most players have today of how something ought to look on a page, and if you're off skewed by it, I mean, I make comments about that every now and then. There's some really great TROs that were made by fans. The only glaring thing that leaps out for me specifically, if you set them side by side with the company made, then it doesn't matter what company made it, VASA, FanPro, CGL. You set them side by side by these TROs, and what you'll find is, here's the page for the mix information, for example, the tank's bio and stat page, and the photo is an adjacent page. So when you open up the TRO, you're looking at the entire entry of that item. So the fan-based versions, for some reason, are back and front to each other. So they're offset by a page someplace down the way. So when they were creating the layout, it got offset. And they didn't ever correct it, or they never paid attention to it, or they didn't think it was an issue. They were okay with how it laid out. But it is a mistake. It's not the accepted way that should be laid out. So that's what I worry about when I do stuff for this game here. So what I would need to do, and my plans to do, is take this up to work this week when I get time, scan this page, bring it home once again when I get time, then cut and crop out this piece here and this piece here, so I can then drop them into my updated digital version of all this. And nobody's asked me to this day, what the fuck? I'm a computer savvy individual. I bought my first actual computer. It was a no, it was not a Gateway. That was my second. It was a Packard Bell, right? Back when the modems were like 14.5 or something like that, and you still had floppy disks. We used floppy disks for storage, and this would have been 1980 or 1991 or 1990. Before that, I had word processors. I had typewriters with little bits of memory in them, and I loved them because I did all my game material stuff based on. So, some years later, I come into a situation where I didn't have access to my own computers. The computers that I had available to me were hit and miss. Sometimes you had availability to them, sometimes you didn't. But more importantly, you really couldn't store anything. You weren't allowed to save stuff. And it wasn't until some years later that changed, and you were allowed, based on certain situations, to allow to store a limited amount of stuff. This really made a difference when it came to creating this particular version of the book, because this is the last actual printed version I've ever made an attempt to create. And because we were able to save stuff as we went along, my friend Medley and I, who Medley did a lot of typing for me. He really helped me out when we were trying to transition from the third version of the rule book to this version of the rule book. And it was a lot of effort and trial and error, but it was able to, the fact we were able to finally link up to, the terminal was allowed to save to a damn it, and I know it, a server. We finally had we were given protocol permissions to save things on the server, and that made a huge difference. The downside, though, was I still didn't have the ability to upload that to the internet, let alone say send it somewhere. I couldn't email copies of my work. I mailed physical copies of my material and stuff. I kept a lot of that, which is one of the reasons I have so much physical printed and handwritten proof of concept. Because if they ever come down the road and somebody goes, "Oh, you plagiarized this. Oh, you stole this," the fuck you, and everybody, and the horse the horse I'm going to shoot underneath your ass, because I got 4 totes of proof of concept out there. So, right, but that makes a challenge for me, because once again, it takes a lot to get these damn charts fine-tuned using tables. Now, if you're familiar with computer layouts for doing office work and stuff, tables is part of Microsoft. It's part of the Word associated with Word and things like this that you can do quite a bit with it. Everything in my books are based off of tables. So I've modified tables to sit inside, and each one is tweaked to specifically to fit the page and to what we wanted it to do. And it was a lot of trial and error and a real pain in the butt, especially when you're dealing with multiple columns. If you look at an example of this one here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 columns to space, and actually there's 12 in there. You just can't see it, and you want to lay them out just right, and they all have to be spaced evenly and everything. And then you have to go through and make sure you've got it all, because there's always something. It's like I've made notes and stuff in the margins and things like this. I'm always on the lookout for, oh shit, or how did I miss that, or it's just tiny. And then you add that to, we'll go back to the dryness of the material. Sometimes it's a grind, like I said, it's a literal grind fest, because who gives a shit about economics from a player perspective? It's important from a game building perspective for your game world to have economics, even if you don't think it does. If I look at BattleTech, for example, BattleTech is a game of economics. It is a game of resource management at the core level. I mean, it's a strategic war game also at the core level, but without that resource management element of it, it wouldn't be BattleTech. It would be something completely different. And in that aspect, that's one of the reasons why it's so ingrained into our head, things like salvage, right? So we translated that decades later, they translate that into what we call battle value now. Well, now we have value that's been attributed to the capability, tonnage, designation, clan, intersphere, whatever. And there's some sort of very complicated formula or series of complicated formulas. Or in truth, it's probably something extremely basic that just appears that it would be extremely complicated, but the facts doesn't change anything. There's economics there. This is how the game mechanics, the people running and creating shit behind the scenes, can have some kind of balance. X weapons do X amount of damage at X ranges. If we radically alter X weapon to do something outside of the category it's supposed to fit, it either needs to be designated as a completely different new category, or it breaks the original set of mechanics, which is the resource management part of stuff. How much heat, how much ammo does it use, opposed to how much damage it deals, etc., etc., etc. Now, most players don't think about any of this stuff. It's like one of the most common things dropped from Dungeons and Dragons style gaming is encumbrance. Encumbrance and time and movement management. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, first thing that people tend to forget about or want to just pass on is how much stuff you physically are supposed to be able to carry, and at what point does too much stuff start to affect your ability to function. This is why they have the encumbrance tables, the encumbrance rules, and they've evolved over the decades, over the various generations, and 90% of game systems have them someplace. They might call it different than encumbrance, but it's there. And BattleTech has it too. Your dropships can only carry X amount of weight. Your J7 can only carry so much ammunition. The mechanics are part of management resource. Otherwise, you have the golden bullet or the golden laser that never runs out. And there are people that play that. That's that uber min max stuff that we don't care about the logistics and the resources part of the game. Well, at that point, you're suspending the actual game. You're playing some kind of arena bullshit at that point. You're just not being realistic. Even the damn clans, by lore standard, got screwed over when they ignored the resource management part of the business. Even when they tried to manage it, they were still grossly unprepared for the realities of functioning so far from their supply base and against a vastly superiorly numbered foe. You can argue that pilot for pilot, the clans that got the inner sphere trumped every time, which is true. But number for number, the inner sphere can bury the clans in any engagement they want to do it. It's just a big, how much bloodbath do you want to bear, how much of a bloodbath do you want to do, and how much forces can you funnel in that direction at a moment's notice, kind of thing. So the mechanics play roles. So when it comes to creating, working on a different version of this game, this is one of my big challenges, and so every couple pages I come up to yet another thing and another thing. So all this here I can do by hand, I can enter manually, and I do that, and I'm tweaking because I'm trying to, I can't help myself, trying to edit any issues I think were there, but also trying to bring it a little bit more modern, to the more modern gaming era as much as I can. And then I had originally included insets in the spacing on the page. I knew it back then I was going to have art, I just didn't know what and how and how much, so I just figured I would leave spaces in, which also is convenient because when you get to the end of a section or a chapter and you find your page is missing a big chunk, instead of just trying to scramble to find fluff to fill it, you can just drop a freaking picture there and end the page and move to the next chapter. It also allows you to adjust that. So if you have things that slide up and down, if you do make some changes later on, you add and subtract things, and it moves up your chapter page count or word count. You can adjust the photo at the very end of the chapter, and at least that's my take on how that's going to work. So when we get to that, right, and then I come right out of finishing that last section, then it brings me into the next chapter, which is related to economics, galactic commerce, which is then a whole series of freaking ship traffic charts versus the types of how to determine ship sizes, and then determine who owns them at a glance, and then etc. And then we get into here's the first ship traffic roll, and then a chart, and it goes on for like 7 pages, and these charts are extensive. It's extensive, so it's literally a grind fest again. You have to come back, and then I have to resist the urge to tweak them. I don't want to tweak anything in them if I don't have to, and I don't need to. But if you look at the pages themselves, here, 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 for examples. These are charts within charts. Once again, like I said, we'd played it and game tested it for enough years that I realized that I didn't have enough entries, or certain entries just kept returning, coming up again and again and again, and too many of them can be detrimental to a lot of different reasons, varying on the aspect. So one of the fixes I came up with is, so in those particular sections, when that roll that seems to come up more frequently than it ought to, I made a subchart. So now you roll the 73, and then you roll another D100 to see what in that chart the result is. Right. So that in and of itself is a challenge, right? Well, there are days like everybody else, and if I won the lottery, I won the lottery. I tell you, one of the top 5 things I'd do is buy this land next to the house to keep somebody else from dying it, building a new house. It kind of goes with the number 1. Number 2, set up my relatives so they'll be okay for the rest of their lives. If you're winning a big enough lottery, for the love of God, you can be generous enough to your family, even if you don't like them. You just have to be clever to make sure they don't get abusive with it, or they don't get stupid with it. Trust funds, anyone? Because that really kind of how you have to roll. So, take care of the home, take care of the family. I would rent or buy a place to set up a gaming lounge for these hobbies we all love. And there are a couple of game stores here in town, great places. And like I said, there comes a point in my life when my working career gets to be a little more stable or a little less crazy. My intention is to spend a day or two, a couple days a month at least up there. I like to do it every week, at least one day a week, to do some gaming. I don't know, find a group, create a group, play on the spar with anybody sits down, whatever it takes, right? Just something, you know. But if I had enough money, I would just build my own damn place and hire somebody. I'd hire a staff, pay them a damn good salary, and to do almost nothing. I'm serious too. You know, we could set up some battle tables and do video. You know, a lot of like some really top-notch video stuff, and hire some people who know how to make top-notch video stuff. I could be a really killer patron to a number of websites that I really I'm fond of. You know, coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of things, right? So anyway, they would hire somebody to help me type all this bullshit, and it's slow in artists. It's hard. I worked yesterday. Now we're back to the theme. We're in my griping session. I'm allowed to gripe, right? If you tuned in this long, I worked a Friday night. So I worked out I put in almost 12 hours on Thursday, and I wrapped up in the evening, and then went to the office, did some paperwork till about 10 o'clock. So then I did not work Friday morning, so we got up, I made breakfast, and then we ran all of our typical Friday errands, paid bills, got groceries, that kind of crap. $80-$90 worth of cat food. Yeah, and I'm not exaggerating there. So we came home, and I got everything put away. I took a nap in the afternoon as best I could. And then I left about 5 o'clock in the evening, late afternoon, about 5 p.m. And I came home about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was almost 6, about 13-hour day. So that meant I went to bed Saturday. I went to bed yesterday, and I slept about 3 hours and got up, made breakfast, had breakfast with the wife, and puttered around during the morning for a while, and then laid back down around noon for a couple-hour nap, another nap in, and then we were up just a hair late last night, so I'm a little tired, just tired, because last night was the first, first full night's sleep in 2 days, but it wasn't the same because it's exhausted sleep, trying to make up for all the other shit. So I'm still here. I am, Sunday morning on the 7th, I think, and I can't tell for sure, 7th or 8th, whatever the hell it is, right? And then we got light snow out here. It's not most amount to nothing today, but they're calling from 1 to 4 inches or 2 to 6 inches tomorrow, depending on where you are and who you are. And so, of course, I got jobs in the morning, and my jobs are most of them are outside, involving being outside. So that weather can kind of screw with shit up. If the roads get dodgy enough, I'm not driving it. I'm just not. It's stupid. And if it gets too severely cold, I have to be cautious because everything's liquid. Everything freezes real quick. Last thing you want to do is get yourself screwed up because you got a 1,000-gallon chunk of ice in the back of your truck tank. So yeah, it's that time of year here. You got to kind of cope with it. We'll roll with it. I expect the worst of the snow is not supposed to, they say, until tomorrow evening, afternoon. I hope to be home by then. Should be. Like I said, I've got a restaurant called Louis Wine Dive, 42nd University. It's a nice place. Really good. They got a 5,000-gallon interceptor in their front patio. It usually takes about 4 to 5 hours to pump. And I do it on a Monday morning because they don't have they have brunch the rest of the week. They open at at 10 a.m. or something every all week long except Monday. Mondays they open 3, so that gives us a window to get in there and get it done. And it's in the middle of their damn patio out front. Although this summer they reconfigured their patio, which actually the new layout made it much easier for me to run a hose to the damn interceptor than the other one did. I don't have to climb over fences and crap. Too old for that stuff, I just am. And so the truck will do most of the work, and it's cold weather and crappy weather, so and my rule of thumb is I don't do a whole lot of extra shit when it's bad out. I'm not going to sit here freezing my back off unless I absolutely have to. I'm not getting the auger out to blend up your grease, and I'm not getting the big honking scraper out to try to reach your bottom. And in this case, this place, it's a lost cause on both accounts. I do it all the time. Our tools don't reach the bottom there very well. There's a limit to how deep they can go, and the stuff is always so bad there. and they won't let me come more frequently. I mean, they already let me do it every 2 months, and it's still pretty bad. Uh, it is just the sheer amount of business they do there, is my guess, right? Or no control for waste disposal in the kitchen, which is, I've talked to them before about it, but what good does it do? Then there's a little punky place that I also got to catch in the morning called Gersha. He was supposed to have been last week, but he wanted to wait, so, which is typical. He also owes us for last month. I come every month, so I bring him an invoice for this month and last month and say, dude, and he'll either have a check where me, or he'll send us one ASAP, because won't come. I told him before, ain't coming back if you owe us like that. We don't have that. We're a small company. We can't do that. All right. But more importantly for me, if the weather's dodgy Monday night, Tuesday's a pretty good sized schedule for me. That's a good long 10, 11 hour day, and I kind of need those hours, like, So when the weather goes, if the weather shuts you down, you have to then make it up, which adds its own damn stress and strain. It is what it is. I've still got a couple videos in the computer. I'm constantly aware or worried. Like right now, you may or may not hear it, but there's the fan on the laptop is going pretty heavy. You can hear it pretty loud, and it's only the last 5 or 6 months has it become noticeably louder. I mean, it's not like it's rattling or nothing, but it's definitely putting some noise out. And the downside here is that, of course, in our house, this is the cat hair, the damn cat hair, and gets into everything. And laptop is 3 years old now. It came out of that COVID stimulus package money that we were all, our government was so grudgingly gracious to give us back. That everybody said we didn't earn and wasn't entitled to, even though it was our tax money that paid for it. Right? Just saying. Anyway, my goal then is this summer, sometime hopefully by midsummer, to have saved enough money to buy another one. Plus, my damn yearly frickin' security software shit's due, and they always charge me damn near $100 excuse my French, on my damn Discover card that I don't currently have $100 credit on right now. Damn thing's all but maxed out. I put a new battery in the van. Yes, Friday. When you start going that, it's done. The sticker on the battery says 20, so I bought that battery in the fall or the winter of 2020, and so we're going on little over 3 years, not quite 4. Yeah, going on 4 years for that battery, and I just, once again, I'm 57. I'm too old. I'm too old to be that guy going around with begging people to jumpstart my car in a parking lot somewhere. I mean, I got the battery charger in the van. I got extension cords in the van. I got jumper cables in the van. I mean, I'm old, but I've been down that road too many times. I've been there. I understand. At the same time, I just don't want to dick with that no more. I had to bite the bullet. We actually worked so much the last couple of weeks where we were a little bit ahead, which is ironic. Anytime we get a little bit ahead, it got us to go somewhere. It's hard to put money away. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how I just don't. I mean, I'm looking at, if I had $1,000 just drop in my pocket tomorrow, right off the bat, $400 for a laptop. It's something I kind of need to have, not something that's a luxury item anymore. You gotta have this shit, right? I don't know how many thousands of dollars it would cost to fix the front end of my van so it would stop making that whining sound when I turn corners and crap. It's probably not worth fixing right now at this point. Like I said, we only got 3 more payments left according to the paperwork I got on that van, and then I'm gonna hold off buying a replacement for it. But that's, all things considered, for the 5 years I've had the van, it's been reliable. We've not had any really major problems with it. A few nickel and dime things here and there when we first got it, which is to be expected, but it's held up real well, and for that I'm grateful. So if it holds up for another year better, I would be even more grateful, because I'd like to pay off the other, because I got the loan through our credit union, same people we got the house for the van. And so when I got the personal loan last year to replace the furnace, that came from the same people, so we owed them. We have actually 4, because we have 2 mortgage, and then we have the van payment and this personal loan. and they didn't even bat an eye when they gave it to us. Which, I mean, I was, worried. I'm always worried when it comes to that sort of stuff, because I'm not just you hear me cry about it. It is what it is, right? So anyway, we're working on the book. We are. It's just hard. I mean, yeah, yesterday Friday morning, while breakfast was making, I finished up half a page on the economics, and then ran into that part with the big charts, and these charts, they're important. More importantly, this is how, when I talk about how much you would know to charge per ton for something if you're buying or selling on your exchange. So, if it says here, if you had a surplus of 10 tons, it's zero point 0.9, so 90 cents a ton, 0.9 credits per ton. So you would get 9 credits if I sold those 10 items, or if I sold those, sold those 10 items to a visiting merchant, I'd make 9 credits. Whereas the negative surplus, if I needed 10 tons, which would put me at a negative 10, then I would look here and it would be worth $1.10 or 1.1 credits per ton. So if I were to buy 10 tons from that passing merchant, it would pay out 11. So if I sold, I'd make 9. If I had to buy it, it would cost me 11. So it's just the ease of the play. You want to look it up, bang, it's real easy to figure out. Once you understand the real basic formula of what looks like be a very complicated system, it's pretty easy to calculate in your head, or using a calculator. So, it has its role and it has its purpose, and I don't want to recreate that damn chart, either one of those charts, by freaking hand, because it would take me months to do it at the rate I have time to screw with it. And at the end of the day, even back then, I learned hard lessons on these kinds of charts, to just create them individually in on their own damn page, and then lock them in place, or turn them into a PDF or a JPEG, excuse me, convert them over to a picture. So then you can just cut and paste and drop them in the actual pages you're working on. It took me a while to come up understand that, after I had to recreate some of these really complex looking charts repeatedly. And after about the third time of doing one of those things, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. There's just got to be a better way. So the downside, of course, was, once again, I didn't always have access to a scanner. And sometimes when I did have access to a scanner, we didn't have access to a printer. And then sometimes when we had access to the scanner and the printer, there was no means to store the image. I mean, it was kind of when you're a beggar, you take advantage of whatever you could have access to, and be grateful you had access to it. I mean, that is the way it is. That is the way things are, and so on. Until next time, I'm Rick, and you guys have a great January. Holidays are over. Now it's just kind of a cruise until the next set of holidays in the spring, which isn't always a bad thing, right? I think this is a good month. It's a good month to sit back and to focus on bills and life and family and things like that. Do what we got to do. Is what it is. Anyway.